Hi, my name is Katya Alexander, and welcome to Real Intelligence, a podcast where we interview filmmakers and tech people about AI in the film industry.
Real intelligence leading the way. AI insights, it's what you crave. Real intelligence, turn up the light. Stay informed all through the night.
For those of you who don't know me, I've been an indie producer working in the film industry for 12 years. I sold my first film to a Bamarama and PBS, and then in 2022, my film Pretty Problems won the Audience Award at South by Southwest. I sold that film to IFC and it became a trending film on Hulu. I also worked on the Las Vegas Sphere, which was a boot camp in the intersection between technology and entertainment. On this episode, we're going to interview Quinn Halleck, who is mentored by Michael Bay and is now working at Fox. He's won countless awards, including Best Documentary and Best Short at 21 different film festivals. Quinn is interested in using AI in his traditional filmmaking workflow. Instead of replacing any person, he wants to see how AI can enhance the work he's already been making. We're going to talk to him about his piece Cultural Connections and how he used AI style transfer to give his piece a unique look. For any unique terms, there's a list with definitions in the description below.
Do we share a common bond? Every step, every moment shapes who we are across time and place.
Hello. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Thank you for having me on the show.
Thank you for coming.
My name is Quinn Halleck. I'm your friend, first and foremost, but I am a filmmaker, and I have recently been experimenting a bunch with these new AI tools. And I'm sure everybody has, but I think it's been interesting trying to take them and put them into my pipeline, just like very traditional, normal because I've been seeing a lot of artwork that's out there that's only an AI artist, only like a guy alone in his basement making it, but it's fun to try to implement these tools into like a normal what happens when I'm just filming with actors and real people, and like how can AI alleviate this process or help me creatively.
Okay, so I want to talk about cultural connection.
It's a split screen of somebody growing up in their life, starts at 5 years old, progresses to early middle school to high school to college to a mother. It's just like up style montage of them growing, but it's split screen. And it's like almost like a twin, but the same person growing up in China and growing up in Western culture. Story was from Shu. She was somebody we had been talking about collaborating for a long time, and it was a project that was absolutely reverse engineered. I was working with Gavin Bedford, who's my VFX right-hand guy. He's awesome. And he and I had discovered this process of style transfer where we wanted to basically film real assets, composite them in a 3D space, and do a style transfer over it, and just experiment with this new AI workflow. That's exactly what we set out to do. The idea was simple. I mean, the concept was simple, but we began this process of what we thought was going to be really easy and just ran into road bump after road bump in post-production, where we really went into it with this, with the verbiage that everybody has been saying about AI is like, wow, look how turnkey this is. This is so fun. And we hoped that it would be that, but it ended up being this really arduous process where, all right, well, this doesn't work. All right, we got to get this to match up perfectly. And if we need that level of control, we got to do it all manually. All right, so it ended up being like what we thought would be 100% or like 90% automatic, ended up being 90% manual, and the 10% was very cool, and that was AI.
In Chinese culture, 命运 speaks of destiny. But every moment.
So how did you do that moment?
Well, there's a few moments we're talking about there. It's actually broken up a little bit on the script just to remind myself. But the opening shot, that is all practical. We had a bunch of mirrors set up. So that is that's in camera. And then what we did is we style transferred it about 6 different times or 7 different times to get different aesthetics. And just simply did like a mask. It was as simple as like you're in Premiere and you just do a mask.
And you did a style transfer using Comfy UI.
Comfy UI. This shot, the shot where her hand is touching nothing, so very much inspired by Shane 3DF. So there's a hand on a 3D plate, or on a green screen plate. The background is quite literally the first shot, but we just didn't have, so we just, it took us like 3 hours to set up all those mirrors, and we didn't have time to do a whole new setup. So that's just the first shot before she, like a frame before she actually enters frame, and then we just flipped it 180 degrees to like make you not notice that it's the same shot. Now everybody
but I kind of like that because it did make me feel like I was in the same world.
Yeah, that was the idea. Yeah. You're in the same space. And so we composite a hand over an already existing shot. We have the 3D, and then the actual element opening up. This is an element we pulled off. This is like a smoke poof from some 3D library that you can like. It wasn't artlist.io, but it was like one of those websites. Gavin would know off the top of his head. Like it's, you just pull these things and they're out there. Gavin basically does an intricate mask of this asset, that a deform asset. So we had a specific artist come in and do this deform work.
So what does that mean exactly? Like they animated it, or?
No, this one is a little bit more of the magic 8-ball that you shake. You give it parameters and you tell it image references, and it kind of zooms. It's like you've seen these before where it's like images moving in on themselves.
Yeah.
It is that basically.
Whoa.
Yeah, but we just gave it like a Chinese culture aesthetic. But deform is one of the first things people were coming out with AI in like 2 years ago. The process of that was the artist would give me an array of images of styles and versions, and we would just cherry pick the best ones, and at this frame it was just like choosing the art style, and then that just kind of does like this kind of cross to fade. Like Gavin did, we basically just fade out of it's not that complicated, but we just fade out of we get another asset of like ink blot, and we use that as like the alpha of that, and we just cut to a Mid-Journey image of two houses, which one's Chinese and one's
So this
Western.
is a Mid-Journey image.
Yeah, this is entirely Mid-Journey right here.
It's so funny now that you say it, I can see it. But the first time I watched it, my brain did add parallax to the zoom.
Hell yeah, it did.
Because because you just do.
Yeah, it's just a digi zoom. There's nothing that clever about that.
Wow. So when you were doing the style transfer, you're doing it shot by shot. You're not editing this whole video, then just doing a style transfer over the whole thing. You're doing it moment by moment.
Yeah, yes and no. There's several processes to it. Like this, we had created 2 Mid-Journey images. The seeds, I think, were slightly different, so they didn't look exactly the same. And then we did a gloss over, like a final pass of a tertiary style transfer to make everything all feel like it's in the same world. Again, like the same way you do a color pass. So we do a pass on this, then you do a pass on this, and then you do a pass on the whole thing.
Right.
And the ball, that's a fake ball. She was rolling another ball that was like a red ball, and we turned it into a basketball process.
Oh yeah, I saw that in the behind the scenes that
it wasn't a basketball.
It wasn't a basketball.
Yeah, there's but this is the thing. Like to get these this is where we really started running into problems. In order to all right, where's the mom? Because we filmed the mom a la carte. She's in her own asset. And it's like, all right, she's going to be at a kitchen here, but we need the tables to line up, all right? So this all ended up having to be a 3D rendered kitchen. It's pretty rudimentary, like pretty easy blocks. It just needs lines to know where to put the kitchen. So it's not like Coffee Vectors was really doing a huge detailed kitchen, but it was like putting the countertop, putting the stove. One thing I can point to too, this was all 3D. All the desks had to be 3D. And we had to really build this one out.
In doing this split screen, did you film her on a green screen and then sort of just change either side of her background?
Yeah, so basically her entire performance here is this is the action. The action was her doing the hair tie, cameras pulling back, and we enhanced it a lot. We did a bigger move with the digi zoom, but for the most part, this is camera probably went back about 10 feet. So this is all one performance from her on a green screen, one performance from her on a green screen, one performance from her on a green screen. It was me calling out, like, all right, you're in a park. Now you're in this. Now you're in this. And she's kind of reacting differently. You're at a dinner table. Now stand, turn, and cut. And that was that. And then the parents, we filmed separately, completely separately on a green screen. We just composited them over her to make it. every filmed my brother. That's my brother with it. He's a dog trainer. That's him with his dog Lala. That's, these are all PAs, and this is like Matt with song and our buddies playing basketball. We filmed all of them separately, and you just start to like quilt it all together into some like mosaic of assets, and then you place those assets into a 3D space, and then you style transfer it. Style transfer is like the last step.
Yeah.
And then this shot is its own thing. This is her on a like, I forget what the name of this rig is, but a 360 degree like orbit rig. She's standing stationary on a like basically like a little circle, and the camera's on this arm, this rotating arm, and it's actually orbiting around her properly. And so we did the move twice. So we got full 360 of her here, full 360 of her here, and then we just did this transition to go from one to the next.
Wow.
Yeah.
My favorite shot of the whole piece is
the
just, how did you do that? I mean, it's just,
that's
it
awesome.
it was perfect. It's so subtle, so quick, but I was like, wow, I know how hard something like that must have been.
I mean, that was pretty practically. So basically, okay, so we literally put two pots. We had a wok and we had a like a big soup pot, and we put these on the ground, and we just film it from a bird's eye view. We have her just do the same action twice. If I were to show you what the premiere timeline of this looked like in our dailies, that is quite literally just a mask, and I just timed it up, and it worked without any effects to it. It's like, all right, her hand, and you just time it up, it works. That's just a cut. But we wanted them to have different backgrounds. We wanted this to be on like a marble top thing, and we wanted this to be on a
Counter.
Yeah, on the countertop matching this kitchen. So we used some AI tools to do some rotoscoping. We then just treated it
Which
like an
tool did you use to rotoscope?
Runway.
Runway is pretty good at
Did we use
rotoscope.
Runway? I don't even remember what we used. We used something to do the rotoscope. A quick dirty rotoscope. And what's good about the style transfer is like it was so quick that it didn't need to be a perfect rotoscope. Like there's stuff in here where it's kind of like, we could have probably done a better rotoscope on that. And so we rotoscope it out, use Midjourney to create the different backgrounds depending on the countertop, and then bada bing bada boom, you get a little shot. And then I just did a so we filmed it stationary, and then I just did a digi zoom to give it a little bit of, I just like doing this little twirl with it. It's kind of like zoom in and spin. I did that a lot. I edited this. I did that a lot in this, where like the reason this shot, it's the orbit shot, has so much movement to it. It's zooming in, we're zooming out. Now we're zooming in.
So you added that's a digi zoom that you
totally
added
digital,
later.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's just a static thing wrapping around it, and I just did a quick like push in. Same with this. There's a digi zoom here. I mean, we did do a push
definitely
in,
adds to the background needing to be 3D because that's so hard to do. It's easy to just do a simple digi zoom, but there is parallax in what you did. So that means that you had to have created a 3D space and actually understood the relationship of the object in that space.
Everything had to be 3D. This all had to be 3D. This kitchen was 3D. We filmed her on a table with a real knife, real carrots, and a real cutting board. And that's a real rag, that's her, that's all the same shot. But everything here, all the white that you see and all the background, that's all green screen.
What did you have control over in this? And what did you have to sort of give up control over in just the idea that AIs is going to sort of pick what it looks like? You can't decide to the extreme detail exactly what it's going to be.
You're absolutely, it's a really great question, because what people talk about with AI is not having control. And what we found is we wanted more control than the AI gave us, so we had to build out so many things a la carte and put them together. Because when you build it a la carte, you can isolate the items way easier. But if you wanted it just to be like the kitchen, I don't know if I had that much other than like the design of it, like the 3D stuff, the actual style transfer. We had control over like what style it would be, but it wouldn't. I wouldn't like be like, all right, I don't want that line brown. I want that line green. Like I didn't control any of that. That just came from the gods above. and you kind of just you learn to just kind of roll with that. Now, we did a lot of passes to decide what the style would be.
I call it the slot machine.
Yeah, you do, and you do it a lot. It's hard to lock down and get it right and get it consistent. But then once you do that process and that pipeline of figuring out what the look is going to be, the same way, actually, I can equate this really similarly to coloring. Is like when you work with a colorist, you go through different looks, you decide what the
I am
feels.
a colorist, so
you know what I mean.
Yeah.
You'll take a shot and you'll say, hey, here's a cooler look of this, here's a warmer look of this, here's like a crunchier version of this. Like what's the vibe? And you sort of do a few stills and you'll figure out sort of like the language in which you're going to tell the project. And then from there, all right, Mr. Colorist or Mrs. Colorist, like go off and do the film. And you'll be looking over their shoulder, and like if anything bumps, you'll address it. But for the most part, setting the look is the biggest part.
yes.
So I would say with a lot of things with AI, it's learning to set the look, and then once the look is set, for the most part, all of the other like minute details that you're never going to notice anyway settle into place organically and within the style of what you want it to be.
What about the opening sequence?
Yeah, like I had no control over this. This is
just
all
was
just
what it
Magic
was.
8-Ball.
Yeah.
Now we could control her hand, and we could control the poof. Like we definitely like time mapped like how fast the poof happened,
Right.
and all that. Like that's all control. But this Magic 8-Ball, no control. But
Was
you
it
don't want
something that
control of it.
frustrated you, or
No. Again, I'm not a brain that works in very experimental. I mean, in very like abstract ways. I just don't think I'm that skilled at it. There are people out there who are way better at it than I am. So to me, it was a relief. It was like, oh, cool, man. Like that looks awesome.
I'm seeing so much AI art that really only works for the internet or just a very, very short thing. And it's just really interesting to see how these tools can be implemented into longer and longer pieces. And the first step is implementing it into something with an actual story that's not just an illusion for 45 seconds, which is what you're doing, which is so interesting.
You're saying something really interesting here, because I think like there's two categories of I don't know what the word for it is, art or just like content, where advertising and Instagram and TikTok are all sort of in this category of like fast art that is cool, flashy, attention grabbing, and it's like this like oversaturation of content. It's badass. It's really cool. I've seen some incredible pieces from advertising. I've seen some really cool AI art. But then there's just like a whole other category, which is like long form storytelling. How in God's name can AI help long form storytelling? And the answers quickly are like, AI can't help me write a script. It can't do this. And that is totally true. It's not going to write your script. But it takes like a really good curator, a really good person to be able to extend, and like this world, right? If you're jumping from commercial to feature, like so many people can't make that jump. You might be able to know where to place a camera to show off the product really well, but like, can you follow an arc of a character? We find ourselves at this really interesting point of AI, where AI has dominated the attention of short stuff. You're going to see a bunch of TikTok stuff. You're going to see a bunch of advertisements. There's not consistency from shot to shot, and that's sort of where it best fits right now. It hasn't really tapped into long form in any capacity, other than people like you and like me and a lot of other people out there who are starting to just silently on the back end implement it into workflows that help the long form. But the long form is you're still an arbiter of a long form. There's still a team of people creatively wrapping their head around it.
Yeah, it hasn't changed the process really that much for me.
Not at all.
It's been the exact same thing. You're in pre-production, you're working with the director, you're working with the production team, trying to put everything together. You're on set, you have full crew, G&E, you have your whole camera department, your art team, your production team, you have everybody there. And then post-production, you still have your editor, your VFX team, your sound designer. It's just those people in their processes might be using some of the tools, for previs or for doing things. By doing things, I mean in post-production, actually using it to heighten your VFX. But I have found that the day-to-day process is 100% identical.
Absolutely. Like I am the first one to say I'm not a VFX artist. Like I fumble at that. But I love working with people who know these tools expertly. Copy Vector's brilliant at what he does, and I do not have the brain for that, but he does. And that collaboration is the same as if he were working, and he is half the time he is working in, any of these, tools and suites, Cinema 4D, as I said before, Blender. It's like, I don't know how to. I can make a donut in Blender, and that's about it.
Me too. The
yeah,
donut.
You did the donut tutorial.
Yeah.
Oh, you got to do the donut tutorial.
To do it.
But so listen, it's like it's semantics of how something is created. As long as you're getting a product that trickles up that pipeline and creates something brilliant, like that's the goal at the end of the day. And it's not replacing anybody. It's just helping people streamline it to be a little bit more efficient.
What do you think the future of it is, and what do you think the future of it is with AI?
Well, I think it's important that we understand that art doesn't die. Creativity doesn't die. There's this fear that people say, they've equated this idea of like, well, if AI is coming into art, then I don't want anything to do with it. It's the same. I look at that same analogy of like, well, when the camera came into the painter, like it was just a new art form. It's a new type of whatever, and it's around to stay, and it's really cool, and there's artists who are really good at it. There's still brilliant painters out there, but it's just like, we went from telling stories around a fire pit as hunter-gatherers, then we went to radio, and then we went to books, and literature, and you go to like speakers, people broadcasting stories on the radio, and then we have these like tube televisions in our living room, and now you have smartphones. Like the technology just keeps changing, but we somehow are finding crazy ways to make art. Mm-hmm. And it's not like we're all sitting here around today like, I don't want anything to do with AI, because art is dead if AI comes along. I'm not going to stand here and say I know how far it's going to go, because I really have no idea. Nobody knows how far it's going to go. And I don't know how it's going to change this industry. I have no idea. It could make everybody just like sets aren't a thing anymore and everyone's generating everything. I have no idea. But what I do know, beyond all of that, the semantics of how you get there, how you get this crazy idea out of your head and on the screen, whether you use a paintbrush or a camera or whatever the hell is going to be in 10 years, like creativity doesn't die in that process. It never has. So I don't know what it'll be, but I'm excited to see how it changes.
Mm-hmm. To hear more of my conversation with Quinn, you'll be able to check out the extra content that is up on Spotify. In our next episode, we're going to talk to Quinn Halleck again about his project Sigma 1 and his use of deepfakes and VFX using AI. Now I will play the credits for Cultural Connection because I want to honor all the people who worked on this piece with Quinn Halleck.
This is the mystery of our Ming Yun.